are dominating the classrooms. We are graduating all these young women to go into the sales force and, plant their flags. We're getting an equality that we haven't seen before. We are being heard, where before it was, it was very, very challenging. And again, that comes with the culture of the company that you're working with or working for. So by the way, as a company's interviewing you, you're interviewing them too. If that's the culture that you want to work with, are those the clients? And again, we're all hungry, so you want the job and you want the offer. But don't take a job just because, it's there and it's being offered. Think about, what environment, what clients do you want to work for? My purpose to coming into the teaching world has not wavered or changed, regardless of the external circumstances, and that means purpose. I always have this saying to myself that the first half of your life is looking for security. The second half of your life, where I'm at, is looking for meaning. And for me to share that purpose, particularly in a time where there's so much social unrest, and particularly amplified by social media, we need to stay sane. So I think that the energy that pulls me through is precisely that, the purpose that brought me to the academic and education field. Equal pay for equal work means exactly that. It's like no means no, it's like you're gonna pay me for the work that I do, regardless of gender. Where I got a more insightful, and you start opening your eyes to that playing field, was when I moved to LA and I started selling in the entertainment industry. That's when I saw, that competition come in play. The good thing is being in sales and coming from sales is that your numbers speak for you. And I've been in situations where literally my first sales job, which I was working at the top radio station in Los Angeles at the time, but it was a 100% commission sales job. I just happened to have the best product in the market. But if you sell, those numbers speak for you. So coming back to that inequality in pay is us being aware, number one, what we bring to the table. And number two, what is the actual pay for that particular position, so that you can actually command that, same pay that any man or anybody for that matter, commands for that particular job. This industry changes every day. And I think that and that's a, kind of like a very ample question. Because to me, there's two things that drive change, at least in my field. One of them is the economy, and the other one is technology. Why the economy? Because we, as professionals, if there's, like right now, for example, we're going into what seems to be a recession. And that's always very fearful because you don't know what kind of, industry you're going to step into. And unfortunately, what gets kind of cut out first are jobs, because that's a movable expense. And in our field, advertising or any other, initiatives that make us money, because you still need to pay employees and you need to produce and keep the lights on. So for me, the economy plays a big role because it has to amplify what you bring to the table as a professional. being good, being on top of it. And by the way, I always tell my students never to underestimate their youth, because their youth, to me, what it means is that they have their ear to the ground to all these emerging platforms, what's new, what's happening, and that's what, in a lot of ways, communication managers need, is people that know what's happening, in the industry and in pop culture. The other one is technology. So technology, new platforms of media and content emerging. So for us, we need to stay on top of everything that's happening. I have the luxury of, being in the classroom with students that are very creative. So for me, it's always a symbiotic experience for them to teach me what they're into, and for me to teach them the strategy on how to take that knowledge and that experience and put it to use for their professions. My most crucial advice for us is exposure, opportunity, networking. Just having all these opportunities that we offer here, even with the program that I manage, we're constantly doing events. The LLK Center, always doing events. Each one of those speakers is a potential LinkedIn, contact. Those are the people that not only can be a mentor that you can learn from, but those are hiring managers as well. So for me, the most important thing, besides, what you're doing here in school and the things that you're learning, the things that you're applying, taking advantage of all the opportunities that you are offered, events, internships. Do as much as you can, and I'm talking to students now, do as much as you can while you're in the university setting, so that you basically present yourself with experience and work that you can present to a future, hiring manager. Diversity starts at the table. And I mean, we can think about so many different examples of advertisers that you ask yourself, who was in the room approving those campaigns? And so was it diverse around the table? Were they parents in that table, approving that campaign? It starts at the table and having that diversity, around. I was having a conversation this week with one of my students because we were discussing the topic of his thesis, and it's going to be on artificial intelligence, basically replacing, let's say, a copywriter. I mean, you can tell a program to write you, and actually I sent him a podcast, that I had heard recently from the New York Times, that there's this app that you can tell them, like, for example, write to me a story of Jack and Jill, and the AI, app basically wrote that, write it with a romantic undertone, write it with a mobster from the 40s, tone. And the app was so adept to adapt to the instruction, which is scary in itself. But what I was telling that student is that human creativity will never, ever be replaced. So what are the skills that we need? First and foremost, creativity and strategic thinking is going to be at the forefront of anything that you do. Everything else can be learned, but that has to be developed. That has to be, basically be exposed to and developed, because everything else, you learn. Communications means content. What's being open in content creation that you're going to need the skills to. The other one that I think is really, really interesting is human design and human experience. Because if you really think about, the experience that a brand has with a consumer, How did they find the brand? What keeps them loyal to the brand? And if you basically understand the journey and all the pain points and points of delight that you find in the journey, that opens up opportunity not only for innovation, but improvement. So think about, for example, if you want to stay in this field, of communication, of marketing, of advertising, of public relations, of applied communications, think about what is it that you are going to use in order to, give a message to an audience, and what needs to happen for that message to be effective. The number one skill that I have really come to see that, again, was the equalizer for me, was that ability to sell. That ability to pitch, that ability to present ideas. I think that in my case, like every kid may come up a little more shy than others, or others don't have a problem speaking up. I apparently, had always found my voice. But I remember one thing that my mom told me very, very early on, because I was not a shy kid. But my mom told me very, very early on that, excuse my French, but she goes, your timing sucks. Your timing is not good. You have a good argument, but knowing when to present it, that other party, in that case, her being the mom, to give me permission to do what I was asking to do. And so that chip was kind of planted in me so very early on that not only did I learn how to sell, learn how to present, which is something that I focus on a lot with my students, in one of the programs that I manage, is that ability to pitch and present and persuade and sell your ideas, So I think that's key, having that particular, quality. And that quality gets, kind of developed over time with experience and doing it. And by the way, the number one fear of the world is speaking in public. Lose that fear with experience. Work through the fear of having that ability to connect with an audience. If you have an idea, study it. Study the market. See if there's, a need for that. Why did you come up? Obviously, entrepreneurship means that you found a niche in the market that you can fulfill with what you have in mind. So that merits a little bit of further digging. But like anything, a dream without a plan is a daydream. You need to have a plan. Have the vision, but also have the plan to understand how you're going to take that idea, what is it going to look like, how you're going to produce it, where are your margins, understanding that in the, typically in the first 2 years, entrepreneurs are going to be struggling, but you need to be prepared. You need to have the idea, have a vision, have a plan, and be prepared for the long haul. You don't need to know everything, every job that I've had, including the one that I'm doing right now, has a learning curve. So for me, having that, mindset that you don't need to know how to navigate the situation that you have in front of you, but you're intent on finding the way. That mindset alone will open up a lot of opportunities. Obviously, you need to come in humble. I've always had this concept of myself, and I started my life as a student athlete, that I was never the best at anything that I did, Not to say that I was self-defeating myself, but it meant that in that playing field, there's people that are better than me, so I have to meet them or excel. So I was always very studious of the playing field, always very studious of my rivals to see how they played the game, where were there, kind of the opportunities that I could, kind of take advantage of what they didn't know how to do so well. So I feel that, in every playing field, not only do you need to understand the playing field, but you need to understand the players, and you need to understand yourself and what you bring to the game. And from there, your game plan kind of starts developing. But you need to be very clear as to what you're stepping into, who you are, and what you bring to the table. There's so many resources. I mean, let's start with that. For anything that you can think of, there's a YouTube tutorial. If I don't have the manual for something, the first thing I go to is YouTube to see if there's a tutorial. There's so much information. And there's times that I wish I had a clone, because there's so many things that I want to be learning, and just time, I run out of runway with time. So if you want to be tech savvy, again, if you're a student, one of our students at FIU, LinkedIn Learning, is a candy store for whatever topic you want to think about. But besides that, not only, if you're still in college, that there's so many different courses that you can take that you can think of. But, centers that like the LLK Center, and all the different events that they do, all the amazing speakers that they have, that's a source of information that can start giving you directions on how technology is being applied to our fields, So again, it's seeking information, and then once you seek information, then it's what are you going to do about it, What do you need to learn in order to, and it's not only, let's say you're a social media user, it's not only to learn about the front end of social media, learn the back end of social media. What's happening on that back end, in terms of strategy, paid versus organic. There's so many different things that you can learn. So there's many, many different things that I've navigated. I think that the most important thing that I've learned through all my challenges is understanding who I am. And if I'm clear in my purpose, I continue going and moving in the direction that I have crafted for myself. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to adjust the course as I see fit, but I know that where I want to go. And where I want to go means I need to stay in control at all times in order for me to get to where I need to. I think that, my advice to especially women, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, and I hope it's been helpful, is that women, we need all the help we can get, in terms of balance. If you choose to be a mother and choose to have a profession, that balancing act is not an easy one, The one thing that that has guided my life in a lot of ways is trying to do as much as I can to live without regret. And what I mean by that is that I feel that everything that I've been curious about, professionally, academically, in my life in general, I've gone and I've explored. Because the last thing I want to do is wonder the what ifs. Of course, before I jump into anything, I do my due diligence. It's when I haven't done my due diligence that things explode in my face and I go, I'll never do that again. But even those mini explosions that I've encountered have helped me, because I always have felt that the process of elimination is as important as the process of selection. Sometimes you need to be exposed to something in order to kind of say, that is not for me, or that is something that I will never do again. That's important too. So never disregard negative experiences if you can learn something that is tangible from it.